So I'm going to venture to guess I probably enjoy it a lot more than you. I've actually really enjoyed this little period of time so far with just so much wrestling, so much new wrestling, so much wrestling with different looks being out there all at once. It is a bit of an exciting time, and I'm getting a little swept up in it, I have to say.
You're just sounding all aflutter. You're getting the vapors. And you have not watched as much as I have, because I have actually called some live and in person and watched it, and then watched more on tape. So I'm still ahead of you. I'll always be ahead of you, pal.
And you're still blowing up from running around that chair or whatever you were doing on TV.
Yeah. And as Storm comes over there, and I'm trying to interview him, the people can't see. On NWA Power, by the way, which we'll talk about in a second, but is surpassed. Has submerged past 250,000 views on YouTube alone. Tuesday night, 6:05 to what are we right now? A little after Thursday afternoon. So not even 2 days. It's taking the world by storm. James Storm, Tim Storm, all the Storms there. We should have had Lance come in. But anyway, at one point I'm interviewing James Storm behind the announce desk, and when they have done whatever they've done, and I don't even remember which show this was on, but there was some consternation going on over there. And I have my headset microphone cord somehow got tangled around my ankle, and I got turned around. So it's looped around my ankle, and I have my foot on the other side of the handheld stick microphone cord that I'm trying to do the interview with, that has just come up on the sperm of the moment. And was not even supposed to be there, because it's studio wrestling, and they're surprising even us, ladies and gentlemen. And I was standing on one foot and had the other foot in the air, hoping that I wouldn't either jerk us off the air, or at least the audio, or that I wouldn't fall over and people would wonder why I couldn't stand up straight on television. It's studio wrestling. That's the. How many times did you see Lance say, "Well, if I could just get the dadgum cord. Davey, can you hand me that cord over there?"
You need an Eddie Marlin. You need an old veteran who looks like an old veteran to run out there and kind of break things up. But, you're like, how's he breaking things up? He's an old man.
Well, if you had like a Bullet Bob Armstrong, you didn't have to wonder how he was breaking things up. His arms were still bigger than anybody else on the roster. It just needs to be the right old man.
That's right. That's right.
I don't plan on, I might instigate a few things. I don't plan on physically breaking anything up. But, well, let's talk about it since we're on the subject. The response on Twitter and the response on YouTube, the response I had on Twitter and all over Twitter, NWA Power was trending with 3 R's because of the logo thing. Hey. They can't all be the fucking Coke logo. I mean, it's a work. It's a product.
But I understand it in the logo, but not when you actually type out the name of the show. I think it looks stupid. I have to say.
It does bother me with my OCD that I've misspelled something. Oh my God, it gives me anxiety. But still, it trended #1 worldwide, which they say is a good thing. And there was some all elite show that was #3. I don't know, but.
You didn't watch that? You didn't watch AEW Dark?
I was in the dark about it.
See, I watched that. I watched an additional AEW show.
Well, then you have to fill me in on what I've missed, because I'm sure there was something. But anyway, it trended, the NWA show, and I realize now after the past week of watching that and a bunch of other shows, it's the only thing anybody's seen in wrestling that's actually different. Because it's so old, it's new again. It's something that people remember or have seen clips of, but have not experienced in their lifetimes. A lot of you young pups out there, and you can actually tell it's different. And it's grown adult men in most cases, some women, grown adults there too, yelling at each other and getting arguments with each other and rolling in the ring and having fights and matches to settle it. And shit happens on the fly, and it's not controlled and choreographed and scripted and homogenized and sanitized and has the wrapper around it like the fucking toilet seat at the Super 8 motel so that you'll know that you can sit on it because it's recently been cleaned. You remember those wrappers? Are you old enough? Do they still do that anywhere?
I don't know.
they would put like a sash, like a beauty contest sash around the toilet seat at a cheap motel back in the day to let you, and it said sanitized for your protection.
I've never seen that. No.
Well, I know
they don't usually do that at the Ritz-Carlton. I hate to break it to you.
Motherfucker. Hey, at the Alamo Plaza at Street. No, they didn't do it. They didn't do it at the Alamo Plaza either because they'd never sanitized those fucking toilets. But anyway, I digress. The point is there's been so much spontaneity and emotion and passion wrung and wrestling wrung out of wrestling for the sake of the choreographed performance and the stage managed exhibition and the display of special effects, that it was nice to see wrestlers, some very talented and some trying to make a name for themselves, squash matches, interviews, shit that wasn't planned, shit that went south and the crowd had fun with it. We had all of that over the course of the tapings. But it's different because it's the most wrestling-like wrestling show that has been presented in quite some time, and I think that's why people responded to it. Plus, it's not a goddamn endurance contest to watch.
That's the other thing. That's the big thing, the 1 hour thing. You know, it's always been said 1 hour or 90 minutes. Those are the two perfect times for wrestling, but 1 hour really does help. It really helps. Helps you want more.
Well, it helps that one match doesn't go through 3 commercial breaks and take 20 fucking minutes. I mean, I'll get started on this in the review, but I love to do long matches in Smoky Mountain or in OVW or whatever when you built to one. But otherwise, just having matches for the sake of them go fucking forever. But anyway, back to NWA Power. It was nice, by the way, of my old friend, that kid that I gave a break to many years ago, Dwayne Johnson. He worked as The Rock. The Rock actually watched NWA Power. Did you read about this, hear about this?
I think I saw the tweet because you did everything you could to bring attention to it. Look, it's...
Well, now, wait a minute.
Hey, I know The Rock.
Attention. No, I did not.
No. I did see it. Yes.
Well, no, and it was funny because somebody had asked me on Twitter as I was retweeting many of the praises of the show and how brilliant I was. Somebody said, well, the ring looks small. And it was in the studio. Maybe I said, well, no, it was a standard 18 by 18 foot NWA ring. I explained that the NWA rings and the Southern Territory rings were almost always 18 by 18 feet, a small studio or a small spot show, 16 by 16, but 18 by 18. And that became standard for WCW. Whereas the WWF always had the 20 by 20s because the old boxing rings in the big Northeastern arenas, and it was big anyway. So I said I did that, which got a bunch of retweets because it's people don't understand these or have never been told these things. But of all tweets, that's the one that The Rock responds to. He replies to me, "Hey, Jim, crew, boys, like I put this fucking thing on." And I appreciate the sentiment because he recognized my face. But if it wasn't for Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana, and what they've done, we wouldn't have been there. So I didn't want to take credit for the whole thing. But he said, I love the studio environment. I have space. He started on Memphis TV. He said, I've got a special place in my heart for the territories. He's talked about, he loves the wrestling business, the old fashioned wrestling business. It wasn't always good to him when he was a kid because he's talked about being broke before when his dad was in Tennessee in the 80s. You know, that was when Rocky Johnson was in his 40s. His career was slowing down. He had spots where he'd made money, and he'd also had crummy spots. It was the wrestling business over 20 years. But the actual business itself, The Rock still loves. So it was great to see that he sat down and watched the show. And I just, hey, even The Rock smells what the NWA is cooking in Atlanta. They're building a dome of steel in Atlanta. We got to find that fucking guy.
Who was that guy? Who was he?
They actually, we laughed because they actually spent some money not to have Tony Schiavone or David Crockett in his nasally North Carolina whine. They're building a dome of steel in Atlanta. He's got him by the honker in Atlanta.
Just look at it. Look at it.
They hired some, or they got a TBS announcer, whatever, but it was because that was Dusty's The War Game spot, in case anybody don't know what we're talking about. That was his thing, so they went all out for that and got an announcer. But anyway, and the NWA went all out and got an announcer, me and Joe Galley. So you can watch them every Tuesday at 6:05 Eastern on YouTube and Facebook, and you can follow at NWA on Twitter, and Dave Lagano will tweet you a clip every 15 seconds. What are you going to say?
Can I give you one critique that hopefully can be improved? I didn't get to watch the whole thing because, that's what happens when you drop a show around sundown on Yom Kippur. But I got to see parts of it. The camera gets too tight at times, whether it's around the promo area or around the ring. I don't know if that's just a hazard of trying to do studio wrestling with different specs than you would, back in the old days.
No, it's a hazard of doing studio wrestling with studio cameramen who know how to operate those $100,000 fucking studio cameras, but have never shot wrestling before. And I agree with you in some cases, Aaron. In some cases, the opposite was true, where the shot was too far back, either on an interview or sometimes in the ring. And that's, I think you'll see some of that mitigated through the shows as they air, but probably more of it next time, as now we know you can sit back and study, okay, we should do more of this and less of more of the good stuff and less of the bad stuff. So that's simple shit to rectify. Some of it may sometimes be, depending on where they are, parameters of the studio, but some of it was just,
of course. Yeah, of course.
You got to have the overall feel for what you're going to be shooting. And there was one guy there that was on the old TBS crew. He was gray-headed. He was grayer than I was. And there was nobody else that had ever been in a studio in Atlanta, I don't think, there, until Ricky and Robert got there. Anyway, nevertheless, it was a big hit, and we appreciate the response, especially me, who didn't have a goddamn dollar invested in it and seems to have taken credit for the whole thing. Jim, thank you.
Congratulations, Jim.
Well, thank you very much. But I'll try to do the best I can in a non-cash way to justify that support.